3 teenage girls from England, Muslims, have gone to Syria to join the Islamic State. And we're going to look at President Obama's words and show how that the girls are faithful and true. Obama? No. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
None are as blind as the willfully blind. We're going to talk for a few minutes about the 3 young ladies, teenage girls from England, all of them very bright students, all of them from well-to-do families, all of them devout Muslims who boarded a plane in Heathrow and flew into Turkey, where it is now presumed, based upon what the authorities have found in their computers, etc., it is now presumed that they have gone into Syria to join the Islamic State. I open saying that none are as blind as the willfully blind because, as you know, President Obama recently finished an anti-extremist summit in which he discussed the root causes of terror, and among them, high on the list, both from him and from the State Department, was the lack of economic opportunities and the age-old grievances, the just grievances that certain Islamic countries have against the West. In other words, it's our fault. It's our fault that they hate us. There's a question that people in international relations keep asking. Why do they hate us so much? I submit to you that it's the wrong question. The question is, what do they love so much? What do they love so much? What did those 3 teenage girls love so much that they were willing to leave well-paying parents, or well-paid parents rather, and that's critical in this discussion, good clothing, good schools, one of the greatest civilized nations in the world, to go and to live in what they would know would be certain levels of privation, all right? If money was really all that important, if the President and the State Department were right in their recent foolish declaration that this is about the lack of economic opportunities, well, then they would have gone. Why go from wealth to poverty? Because they hate us? No, it's because they love something. It's because of what they love. These girls are all devout Muslims. They have been studying the Muslim faith, presumably since the cradle. And they've also been studying Islamic history, the Hadith, the words of Muhammad. Well, Randall, how do you know this? Oh, it's simple. If you read Al-Qaeda's material or the Islamic State's material, it's full of references not only from the Quran, but from the Hadith. Remember, the Hadith are the words and the deeds of Muhammad that are recorded that are not in the Quran, okay? The Quran is a very small book, about 1/8 the size of the Bible, but the Hadith encompasses literally thousands and thousands and thousands of references to Muhammad, things that he said, things that he did that were recorded, and they, along with the Quran, are the foundation of Sharia law. And the demands that are put on Muslims come often, not from the Quran, but from Muhammad's life, from the Hadith, from the traditions of the Prophet. So as these young girls have been studying the Islamic State, undoubtedly studying Al-Qaeda, they're being inundated with verses from the Hadith as well as from the Quran, and they're learning historic Orthodox Islam. The State Department does not know how many people are there. And when I come back from this segment, I'm going to talk about what we need to discuss happening to these girls. Should they try and return? Just think Tokyo Rose. In fact, let me go ahead and go there, and then we'll come back to something else that I wanted to discuss. These girls, their parents are begging, please come home. One of the sisters is on TV saying, please come home. We love you. We know that you're concerned for the people that are suffering in Syria, but you can help them from here. They are going to join a terrorist organization that is committed to the overthrow of England, America. Now, it might be a long shot that they could pull it off. Clearly it is, but that's what they're committed to. They have gone to fight with a foreign power. They might become wives, right? One of the news reports said that they think that there are about 3,000 foreigners that have gone to join ISIS. They don't even know how many, okay? But over 500 of them are women. Think about that. Nearly 20% of those who the State Department thinks have gone to fight with ISIS from Western nations, nearly 20% of them are women. These are Muslim women, young women. Well, these are kids, you could say, Randall. Just kids are 15, 16 years old. Excuse me. The Virgin Mary was, according to most biblical commentators, somewhere between 14 and 16 years old. A girl that's old enough to have God the Son growing in her womb and delivering the Savior of the world, that age is old enough to have reason, to have commitment, to have understanding. And those young girls that have gone to join ISIS, they know what they're doing. And they were smart enough to deceive their parents, get on a plane for an international flight and elude all authorities and to get there, okay? I'm going to take a break, but the question I want to introduce in the next segment is, what should be done with these girls? Or anyone else who has gone to fight with ISIS? Think Tokyo Rose. I'll be right back.
You have two choices. I mean, you can try to raise your children by design, or you will raise them by default. There are no perfect parents. We're going to get it wrong sometimes. If we have a plan, we've got a better chance of getting it right in the long run.
There is something deep within the heart of every human being that longs for parental acceptance and approval. When does a boy become a man?
Get a group of guys around and ask them that question.
I don't think there's a certain age. Some men stay boys their whole life.
I would say, 16, 18 years old.
Wow, that's a good question.
When they get bar mitzvah.
Well, I think when he has a child. So I just became at 56, 56 years old.
Without the power of the Holy Spirit changing us and giving us power over our sin, we can't hope to be the dads that our kids need us to be.
Who was Tokyo Rose? Tokyo Rose was an American, born in, I believe, 1916 in Los Angeles. She was of Japanese descent. She was in Japan, if my memory is correct, when the war broke out. Ultimately was used as utilized by the Japanese government as a female propagandist. So the Japanese were broadcasting radio shows in which Tokyo Rose was saying things that were deliberately used to demoralize Americans, to try and get them to quit, or the soldiers that were interred in various Japanese camps were hearing these messages, many of which were lies. The long story short is that after the war, I think it was 1948, the Americans had her brought back basically in handcuffs and had her tried for treason. She was sentenced to about 10 years in jail, served around 6 years, and then got out of jail. She was pardoned by President Ford and she died in 2006, the age of 90. But she was considered a traitor. She was tried for treason because she helped the enemy. She helped the enemy that was committed to destroying the United States, to defeating the United States. All right, and she was tried. She was tried for treason. These 3 teenage girls are deliberately going to help a foreign enemy who is committed to killing English citizens. All right? Many of those people who have been beheaded have been English. And they have deliberately betrayed their government, betrayed their people, and put their religion first. Now, on one level, you can understand that if you're a devout Christian. Right? If you were called upon to deny your faith and be loyal to your government, or to defend your faith, I mean, look at the Cristeros in Mexico. It was a civil war that was strictly religious. All right? The communist Mexican government tried to shut down the church, and then Catholics, faithful Catholics said, no, it's not happening. And they took up arms against the government. Okay? So those of us who are Christian can understand how we would not allow ourselves to be used to suppress Christianity, and we would turn against our own government. That's what these girls did, but not for the truth of Christianity, not for the love of Jesus Christ and his church, but for the murderous principles of Muhammad, of Islamic terrorism. All right? So if these girls 3 months from now, 6 months from now said, we want to come back, what do you do? There's 3,000 people that the State Department pretty much knows are with ISIS. There could be thousands more. We don't know how many Americans, Brits, French, we don't know how many are with them right now. They're getting training. They're getting battle scars. They're learning to deal with hostile fire. They're learning to risk their lives. They're learning to protect their Islamic brothers and sisters. In other words, they're getting burned in. They might have left green and visionaries, but when they decide to come back, they're going to come back as seasoned jihadists. Then what? Part of the problem is that we don't know where they are. We don't know what they've done. It's not like they're taking a flight to Damascus. Most of them are entering through Turkey. They're going to Turkey and then traveling over the border into Syria. So we don't have evidence that we could convict them of a crime. They're going to be questioned when they come back. Where have you been? I've been in Istanbul. Doing what? Oh, just sightseeing. It's a great country. You ought to see it. In other words, these are American, English-speaking, American accent Muslims, English, French, German, who have gone to become a part of ISIL. The question is, what happens when ISIL, the Islamic State, says, we're sending you back now. And on this date, we want all of you to launch simultaneous attacks for the glory of Allah. Okay? These ladies, what do we do? Look at these teenage girls. What do we do with them? What does the British government do with them when they come back? What if they're sent back to recruit people? What if they're sent back to be suicide bombers? What if they're sent back to run safe houses for Islamic terrorists? What if they're sent back to provide material support for terrorist organizations by raising money? They have to be viewed at this point, at least at some level, they have to be suspected of the crime of treason against their country. It's a tough one because it's about evidence, about a fair trial. I get all that. But people, there's trouble brewing. There's trouble brewing. And President Obama is foolish to even suggest that this is about money. This is not about money. It's not about what they hate. It's about what they love. They love Islam. They love Muhammad. And they are willing to do unthinkable deeds against innocent people because according to Quranic law and Sharia law and Muhammad's life, they're not innocent people. They're rebels against Allah. and must be dealt with as such. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today. The Bible talks about God sending a strong delusion upon people who deliberately defy Him and defy His laws. Recently, President Obama spoke at the National Prayer Breakfast, and we spoke a little bit about it. I've got some clips that I'm going to look at with you over the coming days, but I want to play just this one clip. Watch this, and then I'm going to talk about it.
Operating alongside those who seek to hijack religious for their own murderous ends. Humanity's been grappling with these questions throughout human history. And lest we get on our high horse and think this is unique to some other place, remember that during the Crusades and the Inquisition, people committed terrible deeds in the name of Christ. In our home country, slavery and Jim Crow all too often was justified in the name of Christ.
All right, he prays for guidance. He seeks guidance for not just himself, but for the nation. Think with me for a minute. If he was really seeking the guidance of God to the law and to the testimony, I believe it was Isaiah who said, if they speak not according to these words, according to the law of God, it is because they have no light in them. The president, if he really was seeking the face of God, would realize thou shalt not murder means you don't kill babies, Mr. President. If he was seeking the face of God for the direction of the country, he would recognize that marriage is between a man and a woman, and he would not assault the institution, the covenant, the sacrament of marriage. If he was seeking the face of God truly and open to what God would say, then he would understand the threat, the existential threat, the historic threat that Orthodox Islam is to freedom, to Christianity. All right? Anybody can study the ruins of Christianity in the Middle East, in Turkey, in Galatia. You can go and see the places where Paul walked and preached and where the church was thriving. And now, 1% are Christian. The churches lay in ruins. Okay? So, Machiavelli wrote in The Prince that a ruler should appear religious. Should appear religious. It's very important, but he should not be too religious. Whether Obama is just completely deceived and deluded, like the scripture says that God sends a strong delusion, or whether he is just deliberately deceiving us and he knows the path of iniquity that he's on, I don't know that any of us will know that until it's revealed on the day of judgment, all right? But of this you can be certain. President Obama is deceiving. Whether he's deceived or is deliberately deceiving from true malice, like some Manchurian candidate, like some people think he is, I don't know. But when you make statements like, I'm seeking the face of God for his guidance, and then make statements like, the Islamic terrorists, we wouldn't even call them Islamic terrorists. These terrorists, these extremists, well, they breed because of a lack of financial opportunity. Mr. President, why did these 3 teenage girls leave England? Why? Was it a lack of economic opportunity? Or was it something a little different? Was it that they have studied the words and deeds of Muhammad, and they want, because they love Muhammad and they love Islam, they want to imitate those words and deeds. And they're willing to go over to Syria, to Iraq, and to become the wives of Islamic terrorists. God save us from the Islamic State. God save us from Islam. And God save us from the folly of this president. I'll be right back. I have been a leader in the pro-life movement for 30 years. And sadly, we have not prevailed in our goal to make it a criminal act to kill an unborn baby. There's reasons why we have failed. I wrote this book, A Humble Plea, to Catholic bishops, to evangelical clergy, and to lay people, explaining where we went wrong and what we have to do to prevail. We've made this available as a PDF online for free. I encourage you to go and download your own copy. Why does a nice guy like me keep getting thrown in jail? I have been arrested almost 50 times and spent over a year of my life locked up in various prison facilities. And I wrote a book, many books. In fact, one of them is called Why Does a Nice Guy Like Me Keep Getting Thrown in Jail? It's a theological work, answering those who say that the church should not be involved in politics or that we should retreat. I encourage you to get it. In fact, get one and give it to your pastor. One of the reasons that we do this program is to give you history, to give you what we hope and believe is sound Christian theology, to give you maybe an injection of courage, to give you the rhetorical tools to discuss what's in the news with your friends, not from the pablum perspective that Obama or the national media would like us to have, but from a perspective anchored in eternal truth. Off the air, one of our team said, why don't we know about Tokyo Rose? I bet most people don't even know who Tokyo Rose is. Well, part of it is the preoccupation with Beyonce and her dancing, or just having to make a living, just struggling to survive. Bread and circuses. There's so much data coming at us constantly through our televisions, through our computers, through our godless devices, our smartphones. The human soul was, I don't believe the human soul, mind, and heart were designed by God to be able to sustain that type of constant information, this barrage of information, images, the reaction chemically that we have inside of our body when we see images on our computer, on our TV. It just inundates us. It overwhelms us. And a lot of the information that we get is almost useless, or it is totally useless, or it's even destructive. So where do you find information about Tokyo Rose? I'm going to tell you, it's carefully hidden in books. See, we're going to have to, if we're going to be able to fight rhetorically at least against our adversaries, and we do have adversaries, we're going to need to read. Okay, whether you read on a Kindle or on some device, it's almost beside the point at this point. But we've got to know the truth, and then have the courage to be apologists, to fight for the truth, to declare the truth. And that's part of why I do this show. So that you can learn enough, and know what resources to study on your own. So that with confidence you can say, Islam is not a peaceful religion. Islam is a religion of the sword. Muhammad killed people with his own hand. Or you can come after Obama and say he doesn't know what he's talking about when he talks about the Crusades or about the Inquisition. He has no idea what he's talking about. And then you can tell the truth. If you want to learn more, if you want to be better equipped for the battles that we face, go to our website. Everything we have there is for free. It's to make you an effective warrior for the truth.